Reformist, moderates, intellectuals, most of the Iranian media and public opinion is in favor of this deal. The atmosphere in Iran has changed. Since this deal was signed, now you can criticize the deal. There's a big difference now if you compare it to before the deal being signed. Before the deal being signed, you couldn't really talk about the nuclear program. It was a taboo issue. Now the so-called hardliners, the few of them that exist and are very loud, are out there and criticizing the deal. But what they have done, perhaps what I wanted to do so, is open up the entire debate about the nuclear program. And if you look at the course of the last 13 years of us having to deal with this Iranian nuclear issue, this is probably at the peak moment where you actually have something that looks like a serious debate in Iran about the pros and cons of having a nuclear program. I don't see any credible hardliners that can do anything to stop this deal. What might happen is obviously the deal itself, as we move forward towards the implementation stages, will fall apart. But that's not something that you can expect the hardliners being party to. That's something that will come as a result of the likes of Zarif not being able to, continue on the path of implementing this deal from the 14th of July. The Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has been vague, and I know there are press reports and analysis in the US that talks about this vagueness and almost sort of assumes the vagueness means that he's opposed to it. I don't read it that way, and I think if you look at the course of this man's role as Iran's Supreme Leader, it's very rare that he comes out in favor of anything in sort of black and white terms. So I listen to people around Khamenei, and I take into account that Khamenei, given his position in the Islamic Republic, is not going to be the type of person that you might have expected from Iranian politicians. It's not going to be Ahmadinejad. It's not going to be outspoken like that. That's not the guy's character. What I think you need to watch out for is, if I was an American analyst and I'm sitting there watching this, I want to know, how are the people in the Rouhani administration going to square this thing about go back to the global economy and deal with the Western world with what Khamenei has stated clearly as one of his key legacy issues, what he calls resistance economy, which is to say we're not going to become dumping ground for Western or Chinese imports. We have to stand on our own feet, and they've learned some of their lessons from the last 10 years or so of sanctions. So Rouhani is very cautious in what he says. They're not saying, you know what, let's just forget about everything we've done in terms of sustaining our economy at home. He's very careful. He says we're all going to deal with the Europeans only when it makes sense from the point of view of resistance economy. And I make this point because this is key to understanding whether the Khamenei Supreme Leader's office is going to come against this plan at any point in the future. Rouhani, unlike Ahmadinejad, has been extremely careful to make sure the Supreme Leader, at least in his mind, is the one who's driving this thing forward. On the nuclear deal, that was what Rouhani wanted to happen, and I suspect the same thing's going to happen on this major economic plan they have to come back to the world economy. Iran's going to have parliamentary elections February of next year. So if you see a lot of the so-called Rouhanite people being rejected between now, or at least in media being dismissed by the media friendly to Ayatollah Khamenei being dismissed, that is a sign to watch out for. That means Khamenei has gotten what he wanted. He got the nuclear deal, but he's not going to let Rouhani and his team go that much further.